Welcome to the Meeting Design Institute. I'm your host, Tim Ferguson, and I've got a interview now with two people who love networking and want to bring it to meetings in new and innovative ways. Mauricio and Maarten, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
I understand earlier today we had a great session that you both were part of, and we'd like to talk about a little bit of what came out of that. But let's start with introductions. The people who are watching this were not at this lovely event. Maarten, who are you?
Well, I'm the Dr. Meeting Design, as you can see, and I was happy to be working with Mauricio here, who has developed a technology to improve networking. I think networking is slowly but surely moving up the ladder in events as becoming more and more important, and learning is getting less and less of that space. So we need to really focus on the networking, and a lot can be done at events.
And Mauricio, can you introduce yourself? Let folks know who are you and
Absolutely.
Why are you so interested in networking at events?
Yeah, so I'm CEO and co-founder of Eventia. We were a startup developing an event management software, and we are very specialized in B2B matchmaking, qualified networking. It's actually one of our strongest skills in Eventia. So we're very interested in creating qualified networking at events and generating meaningful connections.
Okay. So I've been working in the event space a long time, and I feel that, or I've noticed that people have a love-hate relationship with networking. It's like everyone wants to do it, they love it, but they hate it because they're uncomfortable, it's awkward, they don't know how to start a conversation, they don't know how to end a conversation. What aspect of the networking experience are you trying to support? What's your area of focus within networking?
Yeah, absolutely. You're completely right. I'm the first one who always, where I'm at the networking space and I feel myself really awkward. I don't know where to turn, and I end up looking my phone and answering emails. So there's a lot of uncertainty.
I thought I was the only one.
No, it happens to everybody, and people are talking with their friends. So you just face a lot of different groups who already packed together, and you don't dare and go and interrupt and say hello. And even if you do, you don't know if that's going to be interesting for you. So it's very difficult. So actually some specialists say that the networking experience in this kind of context feels like a life-threatening situation.
Yes.
It's really, it generates a lot of anxiety. So by doing what we do and by proposing our technology, we're trying to remove this uncertainty from the experience and allowing people to prepare. Because actually, the key to a successful networking from the point of view of the attendee, it's preparation.
Okay.
Knowing who will be there, knowing what you want to get from that networking, and being able to reach out to your eventual contacts beforehand. So when you come, you know that you have a handful of meaningful contacts, and you can come with the best outcome from that meeting.
It's almost like qualified leads.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then Maarten, pull us back a little. In terms of you're a meeting designer, where do you see networking fitting in to your tools in your toolbox for creating a great meeting?
I think it's crucial. I think it's one of the spaces where we can improve a lot in meetings. I think what Mauricio is doing with their tool is on the highest level possible. So it is organized, it's timed, it's selected people. You know, it's the best quality of networking you can possibly get. Below that level, there's different other levels, and the lowest level, I think, is a coffee break. And just put people in a room and tell them, you know, this is your networking space. And it will not happen because you and me will be talking while maybe your potentially best ever customer is standing next to you, and you're not introduced to them. So that's the completely free network. But you can do other things as well to stimulate networking. And I think that's where meeting design has a lot of work ahead of us. And we have so many techniques and tools that are possible, going from this kind of technology all the way down to very simple, low cost, no cost, easy to apply techniques that I think we can improve a lot.
So some form of technique, structure is required, and then we can enhance that with technology. And let's talk a little bit about the technology now. So Maurizio, what is it? How does it work? What are you doing?
Yeah, so what we allowed is the event organizer to already define rules and segment the population. So, for example, we do a lot of events with startups and investors who obviously have an interest of getting together. So we can define specific networking profiles, so the startups can define very well what kind of financing round they're at, what's the stage of their product, and also the investors can specify in their profiles what kind of investors they are, what they're looking for, what's the amount they invest.
Right.
And then our system allows everybody to browse, to identify what's best for them, to define networking preferences, and then at a given date before the event, like 20 hours before, we run the magic, an algorithm that's going to take into consideration all those criteria and set you an agenda of qualified meetings.
I see. So I don't need to go on, and it's not like I have to make all the selections myself. I give you a profile, who I want, type of person I want to meet, and the algorithm assigns me some meetings?
Yes, but you can. If you want to have the best results as an attendee, you must come and say, these are the guys that I like the most.
Okay.
Because those will be hints that will be taken into consideration by the system. If you don't set the preference, we'll take into account, because what we do is we match the offer and the demand.
Yeah.
Whether we know here we're connecting, for example, exhibitors and buyers. So there's the offer and the demand. And each one of them is looking for things and other offering things. And that's what we want to match.
So the comparison to dating sites is obvious.
It's obvious.
And we know that maybe the results of the dating site experience is not always as great as the matchmaking part itself. Are you seeing long-term positive impact? Are the people who attend your events and they're made in these matches? Are you hearing stories about how it all turned out? Did they get married? Did they break up? How is it impacting long-term?
Absolutely. We support organizations who run events every year, establishing partnerships between, for example, research laboratories and startups. And actually, we have the possibility of making an on-site assessment of how was interesting for both parties.
Okay.
But we can run those assessments 6 months later or 1 year later and see how that networking has turned out on time.
Okay.
Nice.
Maarten, I know every time you are given a new tool, you do interesting things with it, hence the laboratory look here. In what ways do you see experimenting with the technology that Mauricio has and the ideas that between the two of you have? Where do you see the future going?
I think if an organizer has a clear objective in networking and it's really, really important to them, I think the kind of tool that is presented here is relevant. It takes preparation, it takes time from participants, but it leads to a very high quality, high level of networking. I think there is a lot of space as well out there for a more simple tool that doesn't take preparation, that doesn't take a lot of time to set up, etc. Although it's probably not a lot of time, but still, we're all very busy in meetings and events. So I think something that is compact and smaller and is like on your phone only, and you just use it during a session, and it does some of the same effect, but on a lower level. Just improving what we are doing today is everything. Every step forward is an important step. So I think we will see more popping up. In the meantime, I also think that the golden nugget in the river of networking is putting people around the table instead of putting them in rows of chairs, and creating a script for a session where there is time for people to have discussion, like we had in our session.
Absolutely.
We had 3 moments of discussion where groups of 6 people sitting in a little circle were talking to each other. Strangers are talking to each other because we give them 4 minutes to talk about the topic of the session, which is a session they chose to be at, and they're interested in and have things to share about. So you get lots of conversations happening in small groups, strangers meeting, and at the end of such a session, you always see people exchanging business cards, and so that's more random, but it's stimulated. You know, it's not just free like in a coffee break, but you bring the networking into the session. And I think that's where the big difference can be made at no cost, low cost, because you still have to manage the speakers who are afraid to do this and, or have objections and are skeptical, etc. But, there's lots of stuff that we can do.
I think networking is really a big word. And we are at one end of that scale,
yes,
where it's business oriented. Or event management theory, it's really very B2B. Whereas depending on the event, what you want to do is probably just connect people, break the ice, and get them to talk together, generate connections, maybe randomly, because you just want to build some dynamics among a group.
Yeah.
So there are really different levels where we've positioned on very result-oriented approach. But what we did with Maarten was very interesting, and you really see the people working together and getting to know each other.
Yeah,
I find that a very important point, that networking, a lot of meetings we work on, the participants don't necessarily see the benefits of networking themselves. In the B2B, I come in, I'm a seller, you're a buyer, I know we want to meet, I see value. In some meetings, I don't see any value in it until someone shows me and gives me the experience and I realize, wow. So for instance, best practice sharing. Maybe I don't feel I have anything to learn. Do you face this with your clients where they're not saying, hey, help us with networking? You're more trying to bring that platform to solve a problem they don't even have and think they have. Have you faced that, either of you?
Yeah, so there is an association that we have done redesigning their workshops for, and so they had workshops, but there were actually presentations with a Q&A, so it was more of the same with a different name. So they really wanted to introduce interactivity and networking into their sessions. And so this is the medical conference. So all the people in the room are doctors in the same discipline. So this is really not a business conference. And they can learn from each other. And so it's the same thing. Small groups, topics to discuss, time to have that discussion in, and some feedback per table or per little group. And the same thing happens. Magic happens, if you ask people, would you do that, then they're kind of, maybe that's not necessary. We come here to listen to the expert and to learn from the cases. But then when they're starting to talk about a specific, piece of information within their topic, you see that it's always hard to stop them. Even doctors have, lots of practice to share with each other, and they just love to do this as well. It's just good fun as well.
Mauricio, what about you? Any unexpected solutions that you've provided to your clients where they were thinking, I don't see how networking fits into this, but once you've shown them, they've opened their eyes?
Well, actually, as we work with really B2B events, networking has always been a part of their needs. But they're probably not doing it in a very elaborated or qualified way. And they come to us and request us, like, how can we make this better? And that's why I think that Eventi is doing a job of evangelizing, networking, to event organizers and tell them there's a different way of just like getting people in a room with champagne and cocktails. We can make this more efficient and more result-oriented.
And for those, last question, for those who are looking for the next coolest thing in this technology or this approach to networking, what do you have in store, either of you? What can we expect around the corner?
Well, on our side, it goes a lot of IT and I would say AI, artificial intelligence, and making the matches and every time more and more develop and relevant. So we have algorithms running, we train them, and the objective is to have a very qualified networking based on artificial intelligence.
Very interesting, very interesting. Maarten, how about you? What's around the corner?
What I see is mini devices that help people to exchange business cards. It's just one of those small things that help people to collect information from each other, and it's also something that generates good information for event organizers. So those little devices are something that I see. Maybe also facial recognition. So just announcing the presence of somebody at a reception. If you have a reception of 2,000 people or 500, somebody walks in, you don't know who that person is, but this might be the person you want to talk to. If facial recognition puts the picture of that person with name and job title and everything on the screen for just a few seconds, so I know that this face belongs to that person with that job title in that company, and I want to talk to this person. I might go find this person. You know,
Right.
it's like an announcer in the past where you had somebody with a you know, making a lot of noise
That's right.
and shouting the name of somebody walking into a room
Yeah.
so that everybody would know that the person is there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Duke and Duchess of Kent.
There you go.
It's the modern version of this.
Yeah, also available for normal people now.
Such an interesting topic. Thank you both so much for being on the
Thanks to you,
program.
Tim.
Really enjoyed the interview, and
Thank you.
good luck with your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Tim. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.